What do you guys think about the whole gay marriage thing? Should they be allowed to be married?
Well, should people have equal rights or shouldn't they? Chris says that he thinks people should have equal rights unless they're gay, in which case they don't have equal rights. But that's okay because they're not as good as straight people. I don't know. My Constitution says that we have equal protection under the laws. And if a straight person can get married, why can't a gay person? Did you know until 1967 it was illegal in 13 southern states for blacks to marry whites? It was absolutely illegal, and the people of those states supported it. Some 70% of people in those states thought, blacks and whites shouldn't be able to get married. Until a court said, you know what? That's not equal protection under the laws. And in that case, in this state, Virginia, Levine, Virginia, they said, you know what? It's not the government's role to determine who you can marry. Now, Chris talked all about personal responsibility and freedom and making decisions for yourself. If you're not gay, then you don't have a right to freedom or personal responsibility or make decisions for yourself. You can see, I think, the problem with conservatives who claim to believe in freedom, claim to believe in personal responsibility, but then say, oh, I'm sorry, that's only if you're a first-class citizen, not if you're gay. You're not a second-class citizen. Now, he talked about moral approval. If gay people are allowed to get married, that means that all of us accept gay people as equal citizens. I don't know if that's true. You know, when Britney Spears got married, I didn't approve. I didn't approve. Maybe we should be able to say, Britney Spears, sorry, your marriage in Las Vegas, not allowed. And then Nicole Smith, you may know who she is. She married a guy about 80 years old. I don't know, she's in her 30s, and, you know, married him to get his money. I don't approve. Does that mean that she's equivalent to all of us? No, because in America, it doesn't matter whether I approve or I don't approve. Everyone has equal rights. You know, until you say, oh, I'm sorry, Anna Nicole Smith, you can't get married. You know, the first people to get married in San Francisco, Deline and Phyllis Martin, these were two women together for 50 years. Why can't we just leave people alone?
The Ten Commandments have been taken out of schools, and the Pledge of Allegiance has been challenged to be said in school. However, the president, because of separation of church and state, however, President Bush is now telling people who they can and cannot marry. Marriage is a religion-based subject. What are your thoughts on this?
Bush has not told anyone who can and can't marry. That's just completely false. Marriage is a state issue. And there are a couple of states, Massachusetts, and I believe there's one, or perhaps Mark knows, that has where the courts have stepped in. See, it's interesting. Mark thinks that elections should be judged by the people, meaning that the Bush-Gore race in 2000 should not have been, the Supreme Court shouldn't have intervened in that. But I'm sure he's very happy that the Supreme Court in Massachusetts has overruled the will of the people in the state and said that homosexuals can marry. Well, I guess we'll see how he feels about that answer. Now, the bottom line is this, is that in this society, people have the right to make decisions. You know, we've debated a number of times, and I've brought up this issue of 3 men marrying 2 men, 1 woman. He's never addressed it. I challenge him now to address that issue. We'll see. Because he said freedom of choice. What if the 3 of you wanted to marry? Should we all say, great? No. No, the odds are, he'd probably even be against it. But the thing is, there's a definition of what marriage is. 1 man, 1 woman. Once you change the definition, then you open the gates. How can you then say no to someone? Polygamy is illegal in the country. And it has nothing to do with the 10 Commandments. The fundamental misperception about the 10 Commandments issue is this, is that the Constitution talks about, there's this thing called the Establishment Clause, and the heart of it is that the government shall not establish a religion. Having the 10 Commandments on display is not the establishment of a religion.
First of all, polygamy, easy. Okay, I believe the Constitution says we have equal rights under the law. Now, that means that it seems to me a gay couple should pay the same taxes as a straight couple. If a straight woman can visit her husband in the hospital, then a gay man should be able to visit his partner in the hospital. Equal protection under the laws. Now, the problem with polygamy, it's not equal. See, right now, if you die, your spouse gets a Social Security benefit. if you're straight. If you're gay and you die, your spouse is out of luck, because our government, George Bush, thinks that gay people shouldn't have equal rights to straight people. But polygamy, I mean, a man has 12 wives. Should he get 12 times the benefit? It's not equal protection under the laws. Okay? It's one thing to say everyone can choose one partner, but you can't give someone 12 times the rights of somebody else. That's no longer equal. So polygamy, it's just not equal protection under the law. Now, he also complains that I think that courts should decide civil rights questions. Because I'll tell you something. This is how the Constitution works. Okay? And if you don't want to uphold the Constitution, you can try to amend it. But right now, the Constitution says we have equal protection under the law. That means that even if you have a state that has what was called Jim Crow laws, and they say whites have a right to vote and blacks don't. Okay, whites can go to these movie theaters and blacks can't. And even if the majority of people in that state are racist and support those laws, which Chris thinks is just fine, because that's the election, that's not what our courts said. Our courts ruled in 1954 in Brown versus Board of Education, I don't care what the majority says. It is not equal protection under the law. The role of the Constitution, in fact, the role of the courts is to protect us when people are trying not to treat us equally. And if the majority says that people with blue eyes, they get lesser rights, tough. It doesn't matter what the majority thinks, because we have equal protection under the laws, and the courts protect us. 10 Commandments, Pledge of Allegiance. The problem with the government telling you what to believe, it's what I said at the beginning, right? I don't think government should tell you what religion you should have. I mean, maybe you'd be okay if the government says, all right, all of us are going to pray to Allah tomorrow. We're going to have a statue of Buddha in the schools, and you're going to learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance to Buddha. All right? Maybe that's fine with you if you're Buddhist. But what if you're not Buddhist? The problem with inputting religion, and of course the First Amendment says you can't establish a religion, is whose religion do we choose? Is it yours or is it somebody else's?